Hi, my name is Simon Moon from Simon Moon Music, and this is the first video in a series of tutorials about how to make music with Bitwig Studio. Well, if you're familiar with Ableton Live, you probably feel pretty much at home with Bitwig Studio immediately. Why Bitwig Studio? If I had to name the two most relevant reasons why I work with Bitwig Studio so much these days, it's probably workflow and stability. Most modern DAWs out there offer flawless audio quality, some offer more content, more plugins, more factory content, whatever. But in terms of workflow and stability, at least in my opinion, there is currently no better tool on the market, at least if you're working with on a Windows-based machine like I do. In this video I'll show you how to set up a very basic project and possibly how to create a template from the basic project we will set up, and well, we'll take that as a starting point in the upcoming videos and tutorials and see how we can sketch down some musical ideas, develop a track maybe, and then I'll show you how to do a proper mixdown. A mixdown that could go to a mastering engineer, for example, who would then finalize your track. So let's start. I've opened up Bitwig Studio already. That's what it looks like when it opens up, and it comes already with a couple of tracks open, but I'm deleting those right now because I want a virgin project and we'll start from scratch. And musical track, EDM track, whatever you want to produce, you need a couple of elements, like for example drums, basses, and so on. And as a first step I show you how to insert those here, how to organize them in order not to lose overview as the project gets more and more populated. So the first thing I want to add is a drum machine, and there is a drum machine that already gets shipped with Bitwig Studio. So it's a factory instrument. As a consequence, as a first track we create an instrument track. And you see on the left side there is an information panel with respect to this instrument. If I create another one, then you see the information concerning this other instrument. But for now, this is the first thing we want to add, and like I said, we're inserting a drum machine now. And in order to have, so right now, if I click on those pads, there's nothing on. We just, as a first step, we have to select a fitting preset, and let's simply pick a deep house kit. So you see the preset populated the individual pads, and now we have a kick, a snare, hi-hats, a couple of percussive elements, cymbals, and so on. What else do we need? We need bass, as always. I pick another instrument, this time for basses, obviously not a drum machine. This is a synthesizer that is based on frequency modulation. I might be doing a tutorial on FM sometime in the future, but for today we'll simply select a bass preset. So by clicking on this little file or folder symbol here, a dialog opens up, and since we're interested in basses, I'll just scan for basses real quick. We'll preview those. I think I pick this one. It's got enough harmonic content, but is also bassy enough. What else do we need? We need a lead instrument. So lead instruments are also typically monophonic, so again I'll pick the FM4 and we'll now try to find a preset that is a lead. So by typing in here I narrow down the search. It's like a filter, very simple. A bit too much of detune. That sounds extremely usable. So now we have drums, we have a bass, and we have a lead. There's one additional instrument I would like to add right now, and that's a pad. Pads are have to be polyphonic instruments. Sorry. So I call this one pad, and Bitwig comes with a polyphonic instrument that, for reasons of simplicity, we are using right now. And there's a couple of pad presets built in. Okay, now we have our pad, and this is already a very good starting point for a track. Just to show you the basic principle of setting up a MIDI track for one of those instruments, I'll use the drum kit right now, and as you can hear, whenever I click one of those MIDI notes, the drum kit reacts, and the way it reacts is this is C1, this is a semitone above, another semitone above, another semitone above. So to show you this here real quick one more time, the kick, one semitone above is the snare, the hi-hats, and so on and so on. And just to show you that really quick, we'll set up a very simple MIDI pattern. And if you click here, then the selected section of the song that is indicated by this gray bar here gets repeated over and over again. So we make this one a little softer. Okay. In this first tutorial, I really don't want to go any deeper into creating a track and developing our musical ideas, but there's one thing I want to show you real quick. That's for now we have, well, 4 tracks. It's not hard to keep an overview over what you are doing, but as the track gets more and more, or the project gets more and more populated by additional tracks, there is it will become harder and harder to keep that overview. And in order not to lose focus on what you're just working on, you have to organize the project in a manageable manner. And one good means of doing that is using group tracks. Okay, so we have a deep house kit here, and we're not only using group tracks, we're also using color code. You'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. So we have a group here, and I call this drums and percussion. And I make a drum kit an element of this group. So now you see we have our drum kit as a part of this group, and the more percussive elements you're using, you will probably need additional tracks in here, and it's all well stored and nice and tidy if you keep this in your drums and percussion group. And we do the same thing for all the other instruments. We already set up. Okay, so we make this a lead group. And add the lead to this group. Then we make a bass group. And we place our bass instrument in here. And then another group for pads and strings. And I place it in here. So if you're not using any additional groups, this means that how many tracks you will add to the project, it won't actually affect the overview on this level. And there's another important aspect to it. If you have, say, 50 tracks in a project, and you want to balance out the volumes of all those tracks against each other's, which is important because you don't want to be the vocals too soft or the bass to be too dominant and so on. You would have to check and adjust all the individual tracks all the time, and as soon as you adjust one track, it typically requires adjusting additional tracks. So what you have to do is you have to do this in a hierarchical manner, and it's a bit like divide and conquer. First of all, you balance all the tracks in a group against each other's, and as soon as this sounds well, in the end you have only your groups to take care of, and there you make sure that your vocals are heard and that the bass doesn't kill the kick drum and so on. There's another thing. Typically I have a certain way of sorting these groups, and that's drums and percussions first, basses, leads, pads and strings, and just for reasons of completion I'm adding a vocal track right now, or a vocal group, sorry. And this is typically either on top or directly under the drums. And here we go. So this is an initial setup for a track that we're going to produce, but if you want to reuse what you've done here, and you can do that at any stage of your project, it might be a good idea to save this as a template. And you can always go back to that template. So for example, if you are starting a new track, you can go here, select new from template, and you have an identical project being set up, and you don't have to go through the hassle of building all those groups and of color coding them and so on and so on. And I would probably not make this a template at the current project stage. I would add a couple of additional things, but I'll talk about that in the upcoming tutorials. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like this, and make sure you watch all my other videos as well.